Hello, so this video is basically just about coil tattoo machine base plates. Okay, so somebody asked me on my YouTube channel about them and if I mill them myself and the dimensions and stuff like that. So as you know, I like helping people out. So person in question, Tyrell, is it? You know what, I'm sorry if I've pronounced that incorrectly. Anyway, I hope this information helps you. And so here we go. So I no longer machine my own base plates. Many years ago I did. The process was painful, to say the least, because changing the workpiece around, I only had a manual mill. It was a big mill, but it was just hassle, okay? And it took a long time. So I've got a friend that's got a machine shop down the road, and he offered to CNC them for me. And I'm going to show you the product that he produces for me. And from a time perspective, I used to, well, I used to get him to make 50 at a time for me. And the amount of time it saved was crazy, you know. So here is a base plate. So my very first design was these. As you will see, completely parallel sides. And I quickly realised that actually once you've put the coil on here, let's just use this coil as an example. This is one I've just got sat here. So hopefully you can see this, but the coil actually, the coil washers are wider than the base plate. So when you've put the side plate on the machine, it would hit the side plate. Okay, so I used to build up a little bit of weld along here, just in a couple of spaces, and then put the side plate and the base plate in my jig, weld them together at that point, with the side plate obviously about 3mm further out, so it would clear this. Then I would seam weld it once it was tacked in place and I was sure everything was square. I would seam weld it and have it all done. But I did that for probably about a year, and then I changed the design to this. Okay, so this is, so you're looking from the top here on a right-handed machine, so the side plate would go on here. Now this saved me a lot of time because I no longer had to put bits of weld, build up weld here and here to take the side plate. So if you look at a finished machine, you'll see what I mean. Sorry, a finished frame, you'll see that it pokes out. Okay, there. All right, and that made life a lot easier again. So it's trial and error with things like that, obviously. When I first reverse engineered, I didn't realise that, and this has been my base plate I've used on well over 800 machines, probably more like about 850 machines, this base plate, this exact base plate. Now, I'm just going to hold up a piece of paper now, and I'll keep it up while I talk for a bit, and that'll give anybody interested an opportunity to take a screenshot or write down some dimensions, okay? So I'm going to carry on talking. This is in millimetres, okay? Now, this is just giving you the basic sort of outline dimensions of the base plate, right? I hope that you can see this clearly. That's me. Anyway, right. So the top picture is just the very first one. Picture, you know, top drawing, really bad drawing, is just the first design. And as you can see, it was the same thickness. It was 10mm. And actually the dimension I haven't included here is the thickness of this bit, how much that is. Well, that's typically sort of 4 millimeters. Okay, we've taken about 6 mil away. You do need a nice sturdy sort of base plate. You don't want to go down to 3 mil. I didn't measure that because I've only got a tape measure here. Hopefully you've got that on the screen long enough. Right, so now I've got a tape measure. I'm just going to prove a point here. Just going to check something. Yeah, so that piece here is actually about, it's best part of 4 mil thick. This is 10 mil. It's less than half. So hopefully you've got those. I will put them back up in a minute. I just want to talk to you about something first. So now the reason I've done this, I had this milled at 80 millimeters, is because it doesn't have to be that long, but what you don't want is it being too short. The amount you're paying to have or time and effort into that, if you're doing one at a time, fair enough, you can custom size each one lengthwise, okay? But some of my frames, although they all matched up, as you can see, this one required a longer base plate than, say, this one, for example. So I would weld the side plate on here and then cut off any excess and make good the join with it, weld, file it down and stuff like that, so you wouldn't notice it. So I think I figured it was better to make the base plate too long and adjust it later than have it too short and then have to remake it because the side plate doesn't fit. That explains that one. Now then, holes. So obviously I do everything in metric because I'm in the UK. In America, I believe these holes would be a number 8, 832s. And then, but I use M4, okay, so 4 millimeter holes there. And you can just open them out a little bit with a drill bit if you want the bolt to go through a little bit easier, but 4 mil is sufficient. Now this hole here, I can't remember the dimension of that, if I'm totally honest with you, but it is the exact dimension of the stem that you're using on your grip, your back tube, if you like, whatever that is. Stainless, measure it to stainless one, and then just, you know, it will fit the plastic ones. But if you're always using disposables, measure a disposable, that should be fine. And make sure you always have that hole that size. Now, what is important is that hole is dead straight, okay? It's dead straight through there. So however you're going to make that hole, this is why it became easier to have all this stuff done on CNC, because it wasn't just the milling of the base plate. It was getting perfect alignment on the holes and making sure it was perfect vertical as well as, like I say, the horizontal measurements. So let's presume that you've got that hole in place, okay? The next thing is your coil holes. Now then, let's go to hole centers, okay? And you need perfect linear alignment to hole centers. I'm not saying that is perfect, but that's going to give you an idea of what you've got to achieve, so that when your coils are bolted in, they are perfectly in line with where your armature bar is going to come down and bring the needle down. So everything is lined up. This means you're not going to get too much loss of power. You're going to get less vibration, stuff like that. Okay, in theory. So that's extra important. I personally, before I weld everything up, I make sure that I turn this on the belt sander like this. I get rid of all of these sharp edges, okay? Now then, for the vice clamp, you're going to be putting, I do this Now I do this once I've got the, let me get you a frame here. Let me use this stainless one. And so as you can see, I've cut this vice clamp here, right, to this hole. So cut it to the first coil hole. And this actually makes it a lot easier to do up the vice, to tighten up the vice clamp, and there's less risk of stripping any threads out on a bolt that comes through here. So I do that, okay. So I cut that I'll just cross cut that. I'll just use an angle grinder with a 1.5mm or 1mm cutting disc and just cut through it. It's nothing special, okay. I don't always get it dead center, as you can see there, but that actually doesn't matter. I prefer not to get it dead center because this side of it, this side of the bolt is coming through, okay. So I put a bolt through here, okay, M4. I've threaded this. I open up this is drilled for an M4 thread, so that is a 3.3mm hole ready to take an M4 tap to put the thread on. This side, up to the halfway point, I've opened out that hole to 5mm. Now there's a good reason for that, because I tap it from this side, so that centralises the tap. So I put the tap in from this side, and I put the thread on the other side there, okay. It just makes it easier to get it centered, get it started. If you put it in this side, you know, you can get your tap can be a little bit off, and I've broken a couple like that over the years. I've not broken any since I've been doing it like this. And also what that enables, once you've opened that hole out, so you've got a bolt coming. I use a 25mm bolt, comes through to about here, and then I put a wing nut on that bolt. So the frame, it's a lot more difficult to repair a frame, okay, than to replace a bolt. So the frame, the thread in this frame isn't taking constant strain or pressure. I'm putting a bolt in there once, then the thread on that bolt is taking the pressure, doing up the vice clamp. So when I'm doing up the vice clamp on that bolt, I always have 3 small stainless washers between the frame and the wing nut. The reason for that is the middle washer acts as the bush, okay, and that also takes strain off the thread of the bolt, and it makes everything flow much easier, makes it do up, tighten up a heck of a lot easier. Now then, I think we've covered everything. Have we covered everything? Let me put this up again, okay, so you can get those measurements again without rewinding it or whatever. I think I've covered everything with regards to base plates. I do hope that this has made life a little bit easier for you. Now I use, for these base plates, I use EN1A, so it's lead-free mild steel, effectively. Its weldability is very good. It machines quite easily, although it would machine easier, obviously, if there was a bit of lead in it. But that's not my problem because I'm not machining it. So, and it's a good metal to use as a base plate because it has good magnetic properties, okay? Now, obviously, if you're making your base plate out of something fancy like copper, brass or stainless steel, you will need to allow for a yoke underneath your coils, and that yoke will need to be ferrous, so steel, and in order to complete the magnetic circuit of the coils. I'm jabbering on it too much there because that's a different conversation, but I hope this has helped you with your base plates, and thank you for the question. It keeps me on my toes as well. So Terrell, good luck. I hope that you build some cool machines, and it'd be nice to see a photo maybe. I'm not sure if you can put photos up on, I don't think you can actually in response on there, but I am over on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook, Jez Camber, but the problem over there is I actually don't accept any new friend requests over there. I'm on TikTok also, and as I say, Instagram as Larry's Vintage. But yeah, listen, keep in touch. Anybody needs any information, I am happy to do these videos. Any more information, mate, just give me a shout. Meanwhile, take care, have fun. You all have a good Christmas, and catch you on the next one.